Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Trent. This is Rams Talk. Thanks for watching. The final regular season game recap of the year 2018 is in the books. New Year's Eve is tonight. So glad I could get this out to you because I know you're all just waiting at home for this. This is your real New Year's Eve right here, Rams Talk on December 31st. But thank you for watching. For all the legacy subscribers out there, you guys are awesome. Thanks for everything. For everyone who's just subscribed, welcome. Glad to have you on board. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Although we're at the end of the year, there's still tons of great Rams Talk content coming at you. You can also reach me on Twitter at RealLARamsTalk. So, final game of the year against our rivals, the 49ers. I kind of feel like the 49ers were a sick dog that just needed to be put down. You know, like this team this year with so many injuries. I mean, if you watch this game, I mean, this game took forever. It was like one of the longest Rams games of the year because they kept having to stop play for an injured 49er. And I never want to see anyone get injured because at the end of the day, they're just people. But like, you know, come on, strength and conditioning for the 49ers, get it together. But I think it's just kind of fitting that they're all injured this season. They were just limping into this final game and really just trying to get George Kittle that record. I'm bummed that the Rams gave that to him at the very end. But I'm glad the Rams also just went out back and shot that dog and put it down. 49er fans, you can just forget about football for a long time because it's been dreadful for you because your team set a couple of records that I'm sure you don't want to be associated with. One is fewest turnovers in NFL history, takeaways in NFL history with 7. 7. That is pathetic. That's terrible. I mean, even the Rams, as crappy as the Rams have been in their history, haven't been that bad. Only 2 interceptions. That's another record. Only 2 interceptions all year. And you got Richard Sherman. Great. Great. Good job. Good job. Just go away. No one wants to hear from you. Okay? But let's talk about the good things. And the Rams just completely demolished the 49ers. And, I mean, we all saw that coming. And, I mean, a lot of Rams showed up and had big games and really highlighted by the pass rush and the linebacking core. And I really want to give a shout out. We've been bashing him all year, but Mark Barron, thank you for playing football in 2018. Good to have you back. This is like the first game all season that I really noticed Mark Barron making a positive impact on this team. He had a forced fumble at the beginning on the fullback going around the right side. So that was great. He also had a really nice sack because they were accounting for Aaron Donald. He came in and had a sack. He had 6 tackles, and he was in the middle of almost everything. He did have that one roughing the passer call, which I will say is total BS. Not his fault. I mean, like, he just hit the quarterback. I really don't understand sometimes, even with opposing teams, like what players are supposed to do with the quarterback. Like, is that really just a 2-hand touch? Do you give the quarterback a 2-hand touch at that point? Because he just ran into him and knocked him over. That wasn't a helmet-to-helmet. You know, that was a legit football hit. So that was that kind of, and that prolonged a drive, and I think the 49ers scored on that one in the garbage time. So, but Mark Barron played very well. Corey Littleton played very well, and I like Corey Littleton. He had those 2 interceptions. I mean, that one where he got the pick 6, I mean, that was a really nice catch. That was like a receiver-esque type of catch. He had 4 tackles. So Corey Littleton, good job. Pro Bowl Corey Littleton, good job. CJ Anderson. CJ Anderson has been amazing. And this kind of like goes into what the Rams have looked like with him instead of Todd Gurley. The last 2 games, they've rushed the ball as a team for over 40 times. They had not rushed the ball 40 times at all previous to the Cardinals game. So I think that's maybe trying to take a little bit of pressure off of Jared Goff in the passing game, and B, just saying, hey, we've got CJ Anderson. He just let's just run this guy. He should be pretty fresh. So kind of an interesting thing to watch into the playoffs is how much of the Rams kind of identity throughout the season, especially with Cooper Kupp, do they maintain, and then how many carries do they give to their running backs when Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson are both available? So that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. But C.J. Anderson, I mean, like, that guy was just breaking off yards left and right. Another 100-yard-plus game. He has 299 rushing yards on the season. He has a couple nice receptions. And he's shifty. He's not just like this little bowling ball kind of guy, but he makes cuts. And he's pretty shifty. And you could tell that he's been doing this a while. So they make him sound like he's this grizzled vet, but he's been in the league like 6 years only. So it's not like, you know, he's Frank Gore out there. But C.J. Anderson, a great game. Jared Goff, you know, he started the first quarter. He had that miss with Josh Reynolds, and I don't know if that was a communication thing and Reynolds ran the wrong route, but that just kind of struck a chord of like how Goff has been misfiring a little bit. But then he really picked it up in the second quarter and the third quarter before he was taken out in the fourth. 4 touchdowns, can't argue with that. I mean, that was just a dime that he threw to Josh Reynolds in the right corner of the end zone, kind of reminiscent of the Cooper Kupp pass against the Vikings when Goff was on the run and he just dropped it right in there. So, I mean, it's good to see on some of these other plays how accurate Goff has been. So I feel like the last 2 games have been very critical, kind of like what I thought they would be going into those 2 games in terms of him reestablishing his confidence, because the Lions, the Bears, and the Phillies game, or the Eagles game, those 3 games he had, I want to say, what was it here? 1 touchdown to 6 interceptions and a 55% completion percentage. I mean, that's just terrible. That really killed his whole MVP candidacy. And had he not been that bad, I mean, his gross numbers would have looked a lot better, because in the last 2 games, he's had a 66% completion percentage with 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. But, you know, he had a good game. Brandin Cooks called it out. I thought Brandin Cooks would have a good game, and he did. 2 touchdowns. He set an all-time season receiving yards for a season record for himself with over 1,200. He and he and Robert Woods become the first Rams duo of receivers to reach 1,200 yards apiece, since Tory, Holt, and Isaac Bruce did it twice. I think 2000 and 2004. So that's pretty awesome. And I could guarantee that Cooper Kupp would have over 1,000 yards had he stayed healthy this whole year. But that's really awesome. That's great news. I mean, if you just kind of look at it as a nice wrap up of the whole season, and a lot of the numbers that the Rams put up, it's quite impressive. And I think that gets lost on a lot of people, you know, when you're going through the emotions of losing games that you think you should have won, like Philly. I think we should have won that game. The Bears and Saints, I'll give them credit for those. This is the 3rd time ever in Rams history that they've won 13 games in a season, the other 2 being the Greatest Show on Turf teams. So, I mean, this is like, for Rams, they've never won 14 games. This is an all-time season, regular season that they had. And, you know, you listen to, you know, after the Phillies or the Philly game or the Bears game, you're like, oh man, the sky is falling, what's going on? But I mean, like, the body of work that this team has done is really quite remarkable, and something to be applauded. And so they also swept the NFC West this year. They haven't swept the conference since 1999. That was before realignment, which happened in 2002. So they haven't swept a division since 99, really, back when there were 5 teams. But add it to the fact that they swept the AFC West this year. So they have 6 wins against NFC West, 4 against AFC West. And the AFC West has got some good teams. I mean, the Broncos are still a pretty powerful team away. The Chargers, the Chiefs, and then, you know, you've got the Raiders. But I don't know, what is that, like a royal flush or Kings of the West? I don't know. Let me know what you think, like a good way of like framing that. But that's pretty impressive. They beat every team in a West division. So that's pretty impressive as well. But getting back to Jared Goff. So Jared Goff, going back to his rookie year, the big leaps that he made going into last year, and then even this year, he pretty much surpassed all of his numbers this year. He threw more interceptions, but he threw for almost over 800 more yards this year than last year. He has 32 touchdowns this year compared to 28 touchdowns last year, and his passer rating is like 0.5% better this year than last year. So, I mean, the development is there. And yeah, you know, he's got a great offensive line. Offensive line, kudos to them as well. I mean, those guys have played in every game the last 2 years, with the exception of last year's 49er game. That was a conscious decision by McVay to sit them. But, I mean, very rarely do you hear of offensive line staying totally intact for 2 full seasons. That's just hard to wrap your head around, especially for Rams fans. It seems like we had, you know, back in the Roger Saffold injury-prone days, Scott Wells, you just name your linemen, they were always going down and getting injured, and we'd be on second and third stringers, kind of like the opposing teams we've played this year. So, I mean, that's just like, that shows that our strength and conditioning guy is doing his job, and that they're taking care of themselves. And that's just also a big cause for Jared Goff's success. So Josh Reynolds also had a big leap, and he had a great game, 2 touchdowns. So last year he had 100 yards total with, I want to say, like 1 touchdown, 2 maybe. This year he has 5 touchdowns, 400 yards on significantly more receptions. Obviously he's filling in for Cooper Kupp. So those are guys that stood out to me, as well as Aaron Donald. No, he didn't get the sack record. That's okay. He still set an NFL record for sacks from an interior lineman, a Rams franchise sack record, and an NFL record for the most sack yards, I think at 183 or something like that. So he's setting records, just not the all-time sack record. And I mean, you just watch him in that game. He had 11 pressures, 15 double team. He was double teamed 15 times and had 11 pressures, and he's had the second most pressures, QB pressures ever in a season, according to Pro Football Focus, behind J.J. Watt's 2014 season. But there was a play that I specifically remember, and it was the one where Mullins was throwing it. He gets hit by Donald, and then Littleton or Countess, one of those guys, intercepts it in the end zone when they were triple teaming Kittle. And he basically beats the guard, steamrolls the fullback, not a running back, a fullback. I mean, he just bull rushed 2 guys and got in Mullins' face, and he threw kind of like a wobbly duck out there. And that's just what Aaron Donald does. You know, Dante Fowler got in on that other one where he threw the interception. And so, you know, to the first wobbly one to Corey Littleton. So, but Aaron Donald, I mean, the guy's just couldn't be happier with that guy. He sent him to a ton of money, and he's doing just what we thought he'd do. So kudos to him. While the starters were in the game, the score was 45-17. And then when they left, they gave up a couple touchdowns. But with the starters in there, I mean, they really locked it down. Like I said before, the turnover rates for the 49ers are atrocious. They turned the ball over 4 times, didn't have any takeaways. Those 4 giveaways accounted for 21 points to the Rams. So that's a big story right there. The Rams pull themselves within 1 more game closer to the 49ers for the all-time season record. They're down 69-67 and 3 ties in the season series. And the story also, I mean, this is a crappy team, but you still got to perform. So 3rd down conversions were great. They were 10 for 16. Meanwhile, the 49ers were 3 for 11. And that'll tell you a lot right there. And good to see Noteboom and Allen get some reps in this game. Noteboom had 47 snaps. It looks like Whitworth is going to be okay. So that's just good to see the backups and see the rookies getting some play out there, get some love. And a couple other things to note about this season. Here's a crazy stat for you. The Rams, just this season, 2018, had more 30-point games than the Rams did in 5 years accumulative under Jeff Fisher. Under Jeff Fisher, they had 11 games total of 30 points or more. And in 2018, they had 12 games of 30 points or more. Yeah. So that's why, like, Rams fans for a while, when you're like dealing with the Jeff Fisher days, it's like the Great Depression of football with Jeff Fisher. Like, it really was. And now we're like in the roaring 20s. So it's just crazy to think that was our coach and our team for so long. being so atrocious on offense. So this is the most, so this season, this is a franchise record, the most first downs in franchise history, and the second most points and yards ever in Rams franchise history. So all in all, this was a golden year to date for the Rams, and got to be happy about everything we've accomplished so far. And also someone did this analysis, and 79% of Super Bowl teams that made it to the Super Bowl, were either the 1 or 2 seed in their respective conference, AFC or NFC. So pretty much 80% of the teams in the Super Bowls are either the 1 or 2 seeds. That bodes well. The Rams are the 2 seed, even though they have the same record as the Saints. Saints hold the head-to-head. So, I mean, they have the Rams are tied for the best record in football this year. Can't be mad with that. 7.3, and teams that have a bye are 7.3 times more likely to reach the Super Bowl than teams that don't have a bye. So it's critical that the Rams had this bye week. Get another week for Gurley. He'll have 4 weeks total to rest the knee, and I just feel the Rams have a lot of flexibility. I'll look more into this, have a couple shows before the break. I'll really talk about kind of the team identity, what they should do, but I just wanted to throw this out there and get your take on who would you rather see the Rams play in the second round of the playoffs. So if the Bears beat Philly, the Rams will play the Bears. If Philly wins, Philly will play the Saints. So that would mean if Philly wins and they play the Saints, then the Rams will either play Dallas or Seattle. So pick between the Bears, Dallas, and Seattle. Who would you rather face? In terms of payback, I'd rather face the Bears. However, I think the Bears are the scariest team. And if I was just looking for the team I thought would be the easiest, I'd probably pick Dallas. Yes, they have a great running back and a great defense, but I'm not sold on Dak Prescott. Just not. I don't think their passing attack is anything to get excited about. Excuse me, Seattle, I feel, Russell Wilson, you never know. Playing them 3 times a year is going to be tough. And the Bears are going to be tough, even though they lost their slot nickelback guy, Bryce Callahan, for the year, and they'd be playing in LA. I just feel like the Rams could take them, but that's a game I'm a little shaky on, just being real. So just let me know who you would like to face, and we'll get into more of these things and in the next edition, because we'll have a couple more episodes before their next game. But anyways, all in all, great end of the season, great end of 2018. Hope everyone had a great year. Hope everyone's safe tonight. Have a good night. Hope you enjoyed the Rams game. 49ers suck. So happy they're terrible. But anyways, I really appreciate everything. I started this channel in 2018. I'm very, very appreciative for all of your support. So thanks so much, and have a great evening. And I will talk to you in the new year. Go Rams.